Welcome back, Ryan in Cars. This video, I think I've done a couple other videos. This is a long-term review of owning this Hornet, the Dodge Hornet. It's a 2023 Dodge Hornet GT Plus. This one happens to have the tech package. I have made a couple other videos, one about the technology, one just about in general of owning a Hornet for, well, how long have I owned it? I've owned it for almost 2 years. I have 3 more months until it's a full 2 years. I'm at 35,000 kilometers. And I've driven it in all kinds of conditions. The Dodge Hornet has a bad rap that is actually well earned. I've said it in my other videos and I'll say it again. Dodge launched this car with no support. Now, generally when a car maker launches a brand new model, they know there's going to be problems. And in response to that, they will have set up some sort of, network for troubleshooting these problems. And send out training for techs and things like that, so that when these problems do arise, the people who try these cars out for the first time, and there are a certain kind of person that always does this. They always seek out the new models to try them and test them out and see what's going on. And so you're dealing with the same personality every time that you do launch these cars. I've had the first runs of new designs throughout my life, and they always have troubles. They do. Usually little things, because a car maker usually tries to pack as much stuff that they already have available, like technology, mechanical stuff like that, into a car to alleviate some of those problems, right? However, this Hornet was done hastily. Okay. Alfa Romeo took, I think I explained this in another video, but Alfa Romeo took the Jeep Compass body shell structure thing, said we're going to make a brand new luxury little SUV for the car market because one doesn't exist, and we'll break in that way. And they did. They completely redesigned a brand new thing called a Tonale. Because Alfa Romeo is under the umbrella of Stellantis, Dodge was thinking the same thing, because their little niche in the market, the hot rod thing, that's what kind of Dodge is known for, is big power cars sort of stuff. They noted that they needed an SUV. They had the Durango, which was kind of doing okay, but they were also getting rid of a whole bunch of other stuff. And really all they had was the Dodge Charger and the Dodge Challenger. Really, that's, for the last decade, that's all Dodge has really been known for. They had a minivan, which they don't make anymore. It's now the Chrysler Pacifica. They had, like I said, the Durango. And I think at the time I bought this car, that's all that was listed. There was like 3 things. There was the Dodge Hornet, the Durango, and the Charger Hellcat thing. Or Charger Challenger thing. But what Dodge did to Alfa Romeo was, we're going to steal that. Slap some different color, some different body styling on it, change the dash and change the emblems, and we'll sell it to our hot rod people, because this car is actually a little bit of a hot rod. I mean, back in the day, I don't know what you would call it, Dodge Coronet, I don't know, but they had their big power cars, but they always had this small little Dodge Dart, you know. They always had a small little fun car that nobody in America would buy because it didn't have a big V8 in it. And that holds true to today. The they launched this to the Dodge base, and the Dodge base immediately rejected it, right? Fine, good, whatever. But when they launched the car, like, there was no support for it. There was no support for it at a Dodge dealership. Yes, 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 we know how to work on these cars. Yes, 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 we sell the Dodge. Yes, yes. But no, what we found as the first round of owners is that they built a website for Dodge Hornet owners, and on there was a system called Dodge Cares, and you would have a problem with the car, Dodge Cares would come in, they would launch a ticket to track the car through its problems. However, some of the problems that these cars had were severe. The wiring harness was the big mystery one, because the car would be driving fine for so many miles, and then immediately one day it would just, all the lights would go off, all the warning lights would show up, car would stop, they would get it towed to a dealership, people would be pulling their hair out, going, we can't figure out what's wrong, and it would sit there for 30, 40, 50, 60 days. Or they would replace some parts, give it back to the owner, 2 days later, same thing, all the lights would, you know, the car would die, they'd take it back to the dealership, and it would sit. So, this video, I'm actually going to go through the outside of the car. I kind of did the interior, but mostly I talked about the technology. I did talk about the overall usability of the car that I've had. I've driven it in all kinds of conditions, you name it. I've long distance, short distance, stop and go traffic, highway, at night, in snow, in freezing rain. So I'm just gonna, there's not a whole lot to really talk about. I mean, it's a car, and most modern new cars are like this. The paint, the earlier videos I had talked about body gap panels and stuff. For mine, it's on the tailgate. It doesn't fit right on here. Nice big gap on this side. Like, it just, the panels don't quite fit. It's a 2023. I'm sure it's fixed now by 2024, 2025, right? Some things I like the styling of the Hornet. The people who buy this Hornet are the people who say, yes, I do like the styling. There were very few other SUVs at the time that you could go out that had decent, cool, sporty styling. I like how it looks. It looks really good. When I stop at a gas station, people say, hey, what is that? Or, hey, is that a Hornet? You know, it's pretty good. It gets people talking. Early on, so this past winter, I actually hit a curb with it. It was snow and ice and stuff. I couldn't stop, and it was going too fast, of course. And I hit the wheel against the curb, and it was a pretty good hit. I actually broke the rim. Had to get the bearings replaced, had to get a whole new alignment done and everything like that. Dodge, you know, the dealerships do their best. They are very good. They're very friendly. They try to help as much as they can. The thing is that Dodge let them down by, you know, not training them on the cars, of course. And then the other thing too is that not many people bought them. There's millions sitting on lots right now, not unsold. So they don't get them enough to be familiar with them. So mine is a GT Plus, and it has the black top package. So you get this polished plastic on it. which looks really good when it's brand new. You know, we've got these things here, the surround on the doors, these little wingy things. I noticed there's an RT driving around where I am, and they've got the same black bumper thing with their exhaust coming out here, but the bumper is actually polished plastic. And I mean, the polished plastic works when it's brand new, but keeping this not scratched is almost impossible. It is one thing, like down here is fine, and I don't know if that would be okay on these mirrors. It just wouldn't look as shiny, of course, when you're buying the car, right? But maintaining this is really difficult. It looks old right away, and it stays looking old. I mentioned in the videos, I got, let me see here. Can you see any of this stuff here? I've got all kinds of rock chips on the car from this past winter. The paint jobs on these new cars is actually, yeah, see, even here, it's actually come off. It's right to the plastic. There's a few places like that. I bought it in BC, and we were forced to have a front bumper plate, so there's screw holes and all of this stuff. And here in Alberta, you don't have to have a front license plate. So I took it off because I legally can't keep one there. But I don't know, I just wish there was, I have to take it and get body work done to get that back to, you know, niceness. I do recommend getting a body wrap for the front if you do buy one of these, either that 3M stuff, or, which is really expensive, but I just say, you know, do a little wrapper on the front to protect it, because all of this is that polished plastic. All the grille, the radar, the sensors. I really do wish there was a fix for these. Either make it the actual, you know, brake ventilation, or give us some fog lamps to stick in these things, because these are useless. It's a design thing, and actually the car does perform. Like, it's got these hood scoops, and they actually do work. I know they're tiny and all of that, but they do work. They really do. I do like the black badging. I've seen the regular GTs, and that's all chromed up on them, but I do like the black. I don't know if it's worth whatever it was that I paid, $500 or $300 or something for some plastic. I know on eBay you can buy them now for like $60 or something. I do really love the layout of how they've done this, because this is European. Everything is readily accessible, easily seen. You know, you don't have to guess, you don't have to fumble around underneath there to figure out what's what and where to put things. I haven't had to do anything except windshield washer fluid. I checked the oil a few times. Normally I don't bother with it. This does have, the Hornet does have a fire suppression system in the engine bay. And I've had that on some commercial vehicles that I drive. I don't know if it works or not, because there was one guy on the forum whose Hornet started on fire and burnt to the ground. Asked if the fire suppression system worked and whatever. But there is tons of heat shielding in that motor, which is interesting because we have a Jeep Cherokee with the same motor in it. The 2-liter Hurricane, DOHC. It's got a bigger turbo. It's got more horsepower and torque out of the same engine, but there's not as much heat shielding, which I thought was interesting. But when you look in there, everything's really tight, and the heat shielding is a must because this car does run hard and it will run hot. And I think that was, very smart of Alfa Romeo to do what they did in there. I haven't heard of any other Hornets catching on fire. I think it was just the one. Maybe there was another one. I don't know. But these are actually really fun cars to drive. I did install a oil pan heater. I live in Canada. It gets cold. This car, used to be in Canada. In certain places, it was mandatory for a block heater. That piece of legislation seems to have gone by the wayside. So I did plan on putting a block heater in here when I got here, but it was going to be a $3,000 touch. And after talking with some people, because the Jeep 2 was sold here in Alberta, brand new, without a block heater, and the sales guy there just says, he doesn't have one for his Volkswagen that he drove, and he just used an oil pan heater. So that's what I did. I went out and bought a little oil pan heater, and the sticker was about, 3x4. It was a really small, sticker that you stick on the bottom of the oil pan. And when I took all the plating off the bottom of the car and found the oil pan, the sticker was the size of the oil pan. It was that small. It just fit. It just fit on the oil pan. And I had no troubles actually in the wintertime with this car, starting it or anything like that. I did have to use the oil pan heater for a little bit of stretch of time, maybe a week and a half, something like that. I did have a battery problem, but that was later. That was in the early spring. I have a video of it on my channel here where the battery died. And on a modern car, you can't let that happen. On these modern cars, if you get what ended up happening with my situation is that the battery stopped. It would not take a charge. We have a trickle charger at home, and just like every other battery in the world that we've done in history for all of our vehicles, I put the trickle charger on it. And it wouldn't take a charge. That's when I found that these Mopar batteries they've had trouble with, and I don't know where and I don't know when. I just, on the internet, there was trouble with these Mopar batteries. Yeah. So I ended up boosting it from the Jeep. We got the same thing happened to the Jeep, actually. It was a dead battery. No, it didn't have it. The Jeep did have a dead battery. We trickle charged it up, and then we boosted the Hornet. And it worked. It got the car started. However, all the warning lights went off. And we're on. And I couldn't use sport mode. I couldn't use cruise control. The car was in like limp home mode, right? Made an appointment, took it to the dealer. They turned off all the codes, charged the battery to see if the battery was toast or not. And it came back good. What we found later on was on my tow hitch, it's a 4-pin connection. And we had used the trailer earlier on.
Could you please repeat that?
Cancel.
Cancelled.
What we found later on, there was corrosion on the terminals of that 4-pin connection. Because we had used the trailer earlier on. We were towing, I had to go pick up a bunch of pellets for our pellet stove. And I don't know, water got in there or whatever, but it was corroded. And I didn't find that out until about a week and a half or so later. And I think that's what drained the battery. My hitch is an aftermarket hitch. I think now you can get a hitch for your Hornet, and it's in the bumper. Mine is underneath, it's mounted underneath the car. And at the time, there was no bumper available for the Hornet through the dealer. There was no spare tire, there was no spare donut. There actually was no block heater either. Because I remember looking, when I first went to, they're not available. That's why I was going to wait till I got to Alberta. Hopefully, in time, one would become available. They would make some sort of thing. When this car was launched, there was no extra things. If the car came with it, that's all you could get. Now I think it's a different story. You can buy things for the car, things are available. Am I happy with how the exterior of the car is holding up? Look, this isn't a specialty car. This is an everyday A to B vehicle. Now I get all new cars are overpriced. I'll agree to that. All new cars are overpriced. And this one is more, people like to attach the sticker saying this is way more expensive than whatever. The price is too high. And I'll argue that point every time somebody mentions it, because I've owned the car for 2 years now, and I've sat and driven other small SUVs in this class. And the quality of the materials, especially on the interior, are worth the price. It is not overpriced. But I mean, in general, if we just say all modern cars are overpriced, blanket statement, the money that you pay for this Hornet is worth it, more so than the next one. It's like saying a Subaru is more overpriced than a Chevy Trailblazer. Yes. However, there's money in that Subaru that, for reliability, the name, the reliability, of course, right? The legendary all-wheel drive system that they have. And that's what you're paying for. That's where the money goes, right? But if you're looking at this going, okay, well, a tricked out Trailblazer, let's say, a fully loaded Trailblazer, and a fully loaded, which is what this is, I think, is a fully loaded variation of a Hornet. Because there's also the track pack way you could go. I didn't get the red seats, which would have been cool, actually. I didn't even know that shit was available when I bought the car. I didn't spec this car out. I walked onto a dealership and I liked it and I bought it. But am I happy with how the car's exterior is holding up? Oh yeah, I was going to mention this thing because I worked at a glass shop and I visit them often. I go in and say hi and stuff like that. And the guy there is a car guy, and his car actually just burnt down on the side of the highway, so he's got to find a new one. But when he found out I had the Hornet, he didn't know anything about it, but he's interested in it. I go there and we ended up talking about it. Hyundais and Kias have this glass thing above the windshield. On this one, it's a polished metal, and it's black. But on the Hondas and Kia, or the Kias and Hyundais, or whatever it is, they have this glass black thing in the front above the windshield. And it's not part of the sunroof or anything like that. It's just glass. And it's black. He says, it's good that yours has this black metal piece here. And, it's shiny black paint on it. Because we got the Hyundais and Kias that come in, and with the rock chips, change the windshield or whatever, but they don't have the rock chips in the windshield, they have the rock chips on that piece, and that piece is almost impossible. It's super difficult to switch out, and it's super expensive. I was like, oh, okay, good. I actually thought, it looks like it's glass, I don't know. But, bonus for the Hornet. I'm speeding up. The exterior of the car, I don't know. It's a cheap paint job. I've owned Hondas and I've driven winters with them here, and it took a lot actually for rock chips to come. But I didn't do anything extra this year, or any extra driving or anything like that, more so than I have in the previous years that I've lived in Alberta. But it's full of rock chips now. Like, the paint is pitted quite a bit. Which, after speaking about quality for the price, kind of demeans that a little. But it's a Dodge, and when I was buying a car and I had to resign myself to domestic dealerships, I was really happy to be able to get a European car out of a domestic dealership. And but the quality of Dodge is still there in places. Even though this car is, 100% Italian, this Canadian Hornet is 100% Italian, it is an Alfa Romeo from every nut to every bolt. The exterior panels are Dodge, in a Dodge Stellantis factory, built to Dodge standards, right? And look, I've known that about Dodge my entire life. Dodge is not a quality product. The same thing with Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo is a stylish product, but quality is always questionable, which is kind of a thing here with this Hornet. It brings these two companies that are known for bad quality together, and overall, what they've done here is I'm very happy with. I'm very surprised. I'm not just going to say happy with. I'm very surprised with. Because I got a good one, right? Mechanically and electronically, I guess you could say. The fit and finish in the interior is superb. It does not match the fit and finish of the exterior, if I can say that correctly. Right. The fit and finish on the exterior does leave this car wanting. If it was a little bit more polished on the outside, or a little bit more, just a little bit more, better paint, a couple more clear coats, something like that. I would probably be shouting from the rooftops that the car is worth it, right? But it's a Dodge. At the end of the day, even though it's an Alfa Romeo, and I talk about that a lot, or Fiat if you'd like, even though it's an Alfa Romeo, the heart and soul of this car, if you want to call it that way, the nuts and bolts of this car is an Alfa Romeo, and that's very satisfying. The exterior clapped on panels, the exoskeleton it's still a Dodge, and because of that, you still have to deal with Dodge. change that. And that is, and I'll say it again in this video, that is one thing I do not like about this car. Hey, if you're a Dodge fan, you should buy this. You'll be surprised. You know, there's guys on the forum who bought these. They are Dodge fans. I've gone in with my pessimism of Dodge, and they've turned me, well, I have a bias, and they've helped me overcome my bias. We'll say that. Because I'll look at other Dodge products, or, you know, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, whatever you want to call it, Stellantis products now, because of my experience with this Hornet, actually. We ended up buying a Jeep Cherokee. You know, never in my life did I think I'd own a Jeep. Never wanted a Jeep. Never would buy a Cherokee. Never wanted a Dodge product, but here I am sitting in a Dodge product, and it's absolutely flawless. It's 100%, it's been 100% reliable for a modern car. Because it has same modern car problems. Doesn't matter if you buy a Toyota nowadays or Honda or whatever. Every modern car has modern car problems, and this will have those problems as well. I had a guy ask me if I would buy another one, which is a funny question, because when I showed up in one of these towns that I'm nearby that has the dealership where I take my car to get serviced, when I first got here, they had a Hornet GT Plus. No, they had a Hornet GT with blacktop package. It was a basic Hornet GT with the blacktop package and the cold weather package. And I looked at that, and the price on it was so good. I was like, oh, I wish I could buy that and give it to my daughter. And it was in the dark gray. I don't know what they call that. I know Dodge has fun names for their colors, right? I should have looked it up, but it had the fun color. It had that color. And I was just looking at it going, you know, that I would buy that. I remember standing there in the dealership, and the next few times that I've driven past it and taken my car for the oil change and stuff, while it was still there, I remember going, you know, I really wish we could go and buy that. And this is that, you know, this turned out to be a really good car. It turned out to be a really good car. Yes, I got a few complaints, but I'm going to have that with a lot of things, with any car that I have, right? Is there anything that would keep me from buying another Hornet? Is there anything that would keep me from buying another Hornet? Yes, absolutely, there is. You know, I was at the forefront of all the big troubles with the Hornets, and all the buybacks that were happening were first announced on the Hornet forum. So were the lemon laws. There was an actual lawyer that came on to the forum and kind of educated people about the lemon laws and, you know, vehicle, you know, buybacks and things like that. And, you know, thank you very much for coming on there, man. It did help out a lot of people, because, you know, a returned Hornet or a returned Denali is probably something I wouldn't buy from a dealer, because you'd have to finance these things. I don't have the cash. If you've got the cash to go buy, I don't know, don't do it from a dealer. Go get it from somebody who's got vehicle records, right? And I know at the dealership they don't do that. You know, they'll give you a Carfax. Oh, it's been serviced, and the Carfax doesn't tell you much. It's just other than, you know, this much money has been spent on these visits. But I would buy a brand new one. I would buy a brand new one again, because it, you know, and that's a question car guys ask other car guys. You know, when I had my BMW, I had my buddy, and he did a video on it, and we were chatting, and I got rid of it. Well, no, I didn't get rid of it yet. And he just asked me point blank. He's like, "Would you buy another one?" And it is an expensive car to run, but the driving in that BMW was amazing. And I would. And I would. And it would, and I think every BMW owner would say the same thing, where it depends on the car. It depends on the situation with the car. It really does. Once you get to know the BMWs, especially the 3 Series, they're an amazing, fun car to drive. They are expensive to maintain because it has to be regular maintenance, and and the money for those is higher than a usual car. There's a lot more sensors involved. But the work, you can do it all yourself. That's the funny thing about the BMWs, is that I had simple tools and you could work on pretty much every piece of that car with a simple set of tools. Would I bought another BMW? Yes, I would. But it would have to be that certain kind of situation, because those cars, everybody bought them, and people who bought them never took care of them. You know, they just wanted, and it's not that kind of car. It's a high maintenance car. And if you aren't doing high maintenance to it, then no. Yeah. So the same question here, would I buy another Hornet? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. If this car crashed or something like that, would I go out and buy another Hornet? I would try, yeah. I would. I absolutely would. It's been that reliable, just blanket statement. It's been that reliable. It's been that cheap to run, because there has been no extra expenses on this car. I run it on premium, I say it before, and it costs me less than actual regular gas in it. But I'm a driver. I'm a driving enthusiast. I enjoy driving. I enjoy spirited driving. I don't mean I like getting in the car and I like driving somewhere because it's fun. I mean, I'll do the regular everyday driving things, but when I get those moments where I get to tear around, and I'll do that in any car, don't get me wrong. I'll do that in any car and I'll put a smile on my own face, right? However, I do it in this car and it's capable. It's a very capable driver's car. And and I really enjoy that about this car. And that's what sets this car apart from every other small SUV out there. It is practical enough. It is day-to-day enough. It is stylish enough, you know, to turn people's heads or whatever you want. For me to walk up to it and say, hey, that looks cool. I like that. You know, to feel good sitting in it. Where this car shines is how it drives. And it's very strange because it does the performance stuff really well. It does the performance stuff very well. It will put a smile on your face. It will make you giggle. You'll want to talk about it. The thing is that the other end of this, because it's got the tech package, is that it does all the mundane stuff on its own that I don't have to care about. And when I say the drivability of this car and how much I enjoy it, that's where this thing shines, is all in the driving of it, you know. The whole cruise control, self-driving, lane sense, driver assist, speed assist, all of that stuff helps me drive. It does. And it is something that I would like to take to the next car that I buy, whatever it is. When I get into the Jeep Cherokee, I wish I could pull that out of here and put it in there. That's how much I like driving this car. I just wish I could take the box of drivability that's in this car and move it over to the next one that I have to drive. Because, and I don't mean the performance stuff, I just mean all of this little bit of technology that's in here that helps me drive, right? I don't have to be switched on 24/7. The car does take a lot of it. And once you learn the technology in this car for that, it makes your life easier. It's the one time in my life I can say technology is really working and I like it. As much as I hate technology in cars, this the one in this car, you know, the exterior of the car, I enjoy it. I do. I'm sad that it's a cheap paint job and all of that. It looks cool. People walk up to me and talk, and you know, that kind of thing. Thank you for sticking along this far. Consider liking and subscribing if you're new. If there is anything that you should mention it in the comments, because everybody reads this. Everybody comes to this channel to learn about Hornets. And if you're interested in Hornets, go through some of the other videos that I have about the Hornet, because there's really good comments. Really good comments in the comment section. Yeah, that's it for now. I'll see you on the next one.